that has never before happened in human history. In evolutionary terms, movement building is relatively recent. It's a couple hundred years old, where we actually see millions of people around the planet engaged in helping millions of other people around the planet whom they've never met try to achieve an equitable life of some kind built on an innate sense of justice. This is something we've never seen before in human history, and we want to support that, and obviously we're all a part of that here. So welcome to the New World. I want to introduce Richard Kim, who is here from The Nation, the executive editor of The Nation, and he's been a wonderful contributor to our panels and to so much of the work that we're doing here. So I'm going to let you introduce the rest of the group here. We have panels continuing through Saturday here at Filmmaker Lodge, and we want you to keep coming back here. I don't think there are any other, Kristen, are there any other housekeeping type things? Let's get rolling. Richard Kim.
Thank you, Cara. I just want to thank everyone at Sundance for putting this panel together. And I really want to echo, Cara, before I introduce our illustrious panelists, what an important time it is to be having this conversation, not just here, but around the world. And if you think back at 2011, it started in Tunisia when a fruit vendor, in an act of desperation, lit himself on fire to protest police brutality, really. And that sparked the Egyptian revolution, which led to millions of people across Egypt turning out into the streets, and the eventual resignation of President Hosni Mubarak. That led to revolts across the Arab world, in Syria, in Yemen, and then also, interestingly, a revolt in Madison, Wisconsin, where you saw hundreds of thousands of people turn out in the bitter Wisconsin cold to protest Governor Scott Walker's anti-union legislation. And there they were greeted by a poster of an Egyptian boy at Tahrir, and the poster just said, "Egypt stands with Wisconsin workers, one world, one pain." And pizzas flowed from Tahrir to Madison. And those demonstrations rolled on, in some ways, to London in March, where hundreds of, 500,000 people, the largest demonstrations in British history since the Iraq War, turned out to protest austerity measures. In May, to Spain, where the Indignados seized Puerto del Sol Square, leading to rolling protests, where 8 million Spanish people participated in protests against austerity measures. To Chile, where students led a revolt against austerity and budget cuts, demanding free higher education for all. And then to a really unexpected moment that I think a lot of people here were happy to see, which was Occupy Wall Street on September 17th, when this sort of really ragtag group of anarchists decided to seize Zuccotti Park. And it's just been an extraordinary year of these rolling, interconnected revolutions, really. And something that has really tied all that together has been the power of media and video. We have seen the live streams of police brutality. We have seen the clips from Tahrir. And it's just been an incredibly interesting moment to think through all that. And so I'm joined in that project by some really extraordinary people. And we have 4 great panelists, 3 exceptional documentaries, and I want to introduce them now. From A Fierce Green Fire, we have Lois Gibbs. In 1978, Lois discovered that her home and neighborhood at Love Canal in Niagara Falls sat on top of 20,000 tons, is that right? 20,000 tons of toxic waste. For the next 3 years, she worked tirelessly to get the state and the federal government to evacuate the Love Canal residents, and they finally did it in 1980. Since then, Lois went on to found the Center for Health, Environment, and Justice, which has assisted over 11,000 grassroots groups to organize around toxic waste. And Lois is the executive director and speaks across the country on environmental and health issues. So Lois Gibbs. From How to Survive a Plague, Peter Staley. While working, I've been bunking with Peter in this huge house in Deer Valley, so it's just been a pleasure to get to know him. While working as a bond trader on Wall Street in 1985, Peter was diagnosed with AIDS-related complex. That was what it was called then. And he joined ACT UP shortly after it was founded in 1987 and chaired its fundraising committee. In 1988, he quit his Wall Street job to become a full-time AIDS activist, and he joined ACT UP's Treatment and Data Committee, leading, among other things, campaigns against Burroughs Wellcome and other drug companies, an occupation to speak of the Wall Street floor. And he gave a plenary speech at the 6th International AIDS Conference in San Francisco. In 1992, Peter and other members of Treatment and Data founded the Treatment Action Group. And one of the things that they did in the early stages was to put a giant condom over Jesse Helms' house. And it's just a great clip from How to Survive the Plague. Peter, in 2000, started AIDSmeds.com, a website that offers treatment information for people with HIV, and I just think he's been an exceptional gay and health activist for the years. So Peter Staley. From Half Revolution, which I had the absolute pleasure to see yesterday on the 1-year anniversary of Tahrir Square, we have Omar Shorgawi. Omar was raised by his Danish mother and Palestinian father in Copenhagen, and he's the director of 2 really great films. I've seen both. The award-winning feature film, Go With Peace, Jamil, and also the award-winning documentary, My Father from Haifa, which is about Omar's father who fled as a child from Palestine, from the occupied territories. Omar was living in Cairo for about 4 years when the revolution took off. And Half Revolution is the story of what happened with him and his friends over 11 days in the early stages of that revolution. And maybe we'll ask you later on why it's called Half Revolution. And finally, we're joined by Naomi Wolf. Naomi is a celebrated writer, a political analyst, and activist. She's the author of many books, including The Beauty Myth, The End of America, A Letter of Warning to a Young Patriot, and I think your most recent, Give Me Liberty, a handbook for American revolutionaries. And I think you have another book in the works, and tell me if I get this title wrong, Vagina, a Biography. A new biography. So I know we are all willing and eager to read that. And in recent years, I think it's safe to say that Naomi has become something of a political early warning system.
Thank you.
Alerting Americans to the encroachment on their civil liberties and the erosion of democracy in her media appearances. And she was arrested, I know, this fall with Occupy Wall Street, and has spoken powerfully on its behalf. So this is our panel, and I'm going to get right to clips. So can we start with a Fear Screen Fire?